Welcome to Eternal Rambles, where the Eternals ramble eternally. I'm Aaron.
I'm Kodig.
And I'm Ryan.
And today we're going to do a little bit more of a broader topic, something a little bit more laid back than we have been. Of course, how much broader can you get than Pokemon? But we're going to be talking about shows and cartoons that we watched when we were younger. For those in the audience who cares, Kodig and myself are Centennials. I do believe that Ryan is a millennial.
Yeah, I'm a millennial.
But the last millennials.
I'm very non-millennial for a millennial.
Well, it doesn't matter how you're... It's not your attitude. It's when you were born that determines your generation. So when I growing up, I watched primarily Cartoon Network. Boomerang is kind of an offset of that. And Disney Channel cartoons. Nickelodeon every so often, but for my younger days, definitely Cartoon Network is where I watched most of my shows.
Now, I grew up in a bit of a different household. We didn't have cable, so...
Wait, you're saying you grew up in a different household than I did? Shocker.
Yeah, surprising.
No, we didn't have cable. I mean, there was a few times where we had cable whenever we could afford it, but...
You watched, like, a PBS Kids? Or
PBS Kids, stuff like that. So I watched a lot of PBS Kids. Even in my teen years, I watched a lot of PBS Kids. And, I loved cartoon... Anytime I had the chance. Cartoon Network, Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, Nicktoons, Boomerang.
It's always fun whenever you could get WB 4 Kids.
Oh,
that was always interesting.
Man. Those were I think the Sunday morning cartoons or Saturday morning cartoons.
Weekend morning cartoons.
Yeah, with WB 4 Kids. Man, that was amazing. Those were some of my favorite days. I wish I could go back to those days.
You know the thing I really miss?
What?
Cartoon Network Friday nights, where it was literally 24 straight hours of cartoons. Because anyone who watches Cartoon Network knows, around 11-ish o'clock, 10 o'clock, Cartoon Network switches over to Adult Swim, where it shows more adult cartoons, stuff like that. And I think on Saturdays, Toonami was a thing.
Yeah,
I think it was a thing, and then it left, and then it's come back now. I think it's still on.
Yeah.
But those Friday nights, they're just 24 hours straight cartoons. Oh, so good.
And just stay up all 24 hours?
Yes! Yes, I did!
I remember when I was a little kid, I actually used to stay awake until 3 a.m. every day. Disney Channel would show a live action. I know this isn't a cartoon, but Disney Channel would show a live action movie at 3 a.m.
Yeah, I remember
one of those made for
the Disney Channel original movies.
Yeah, and every day I would stay up and watch that movie, and my dad would be like, "What are you still doing awake?" And I'm like, "It's summer. I'll wake up at a decent time."
It was always interesting.
Never did.
It was always interesting whenever you would wake up earlier than you normally would. You wake up in the middle of the night, you turn on TV, and there's just shows that you've never seen that come on. I remember the big thing, around 4 or 5 a.m. on Nickelodeon, LT Gray.
Yeah.
That was so good. I was so upset I couldn't watch it any other time.
Man, that was my biggest thing, because
so good.
I loved watching the Pokemon, whatever Pokemon anime was on at the time. But the problem is it started at 7.
Yeah.
And I had to be at school at 7:30.
Those are the real struggles.
So my dad would not let me watch it because I had to get ready for school. And I was like, the only thing that he would let me watch before school, was Avatar: The Last Airbender. That's because he liked it too.
Yes.
But actually,
no one doesn't like Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Interesting fact for you. When I first saw Avatar: The Last Airbender, I thought it was boring. At first, when I was a little kid.
Heresy.
I thought it was boring. And then my dad started watching it. And he was like, "Come watch this with me." And I was like, "Okay." I watched an episode. I was like, "This is the best thing ever." And my dad is actually the one that got me into Avatar: The Last Airbender.
How ironic when your parents get you into a cartoon that's not a cartoon that they watched when they were a kid.
Exactly.
Now, on the topic of shows we used to watch as kids, going back to that.
Yeah, Ryan didn't really watch a lot of cartoons growing up.
I didn't really, which is why this is cartoons and shows, because I didn't watch a lot of cartoons.
Heresy.
When we were growing up, my family didn't have a whole lot of the cartoon channels available to them.
Well, you're like Kodig. You just got you didn't have cable, so it was a lot of the basic packages.
PBS Kids, W4 Kids only on specific days.
Yeah.
and that was it. So I grew up, and this is gonna sound very strange. Like the only show that I can genuinely like, I know I loved, Cyber Chase. I know
I absolutely adored Cyber Chase.
So stupid, but so as
great.
A child you didn't care.
It's fantastic. You don't care because it's a great show.
Just a great theme song, and you're in, and that's all you care about.
So yeah, I know I loved Cyber Chick. I know I loved.
I would love to sing it if I wasn't afraid of getting
Sesame
flagged.
Street.
That's the thing, is I remember all of these theme songs.
Yeah,
right? You're just not allowed to sing any of
them. Or like I think there's a lot of those shows that just kind of seemed like, you don't really think about them until like the idea comes up, like Lucha Lucha, or what was it? I think that's what it was, right?
Mucha Lucha.
You don't really think about these shows, and then
until somebody references
and someone says something about it, and you're like, "Oh my god, I remember this!" Like El Tigre or Mucha Lucha, or there was this one show I used to watch. It only came on at 11 p.m. So the few times that I got to watch it on the weekends, I freaking loved it. It was called That Secret Show.
Yes.
It was on
Fluffy bunny.
Exactly.
Dancing in the woods. Sorry, little granny. But we need this time slot desperately for this desperately. Clear. Rodden, The Secret Show. It was one of those cartoons that it was a kid could still watch it, but they were definitely aiming at a slightly
more adult audience.
It wasn't quite an adult audience.
More like mid-teen, like preteen.
Okay, sure,
it seemed like, because some of the subject matter they went into was kind of adult, but it was always presented in a way that a child could watch it.
Kind of way.
It was interesting. It was a really odd show, which is why it was on at 11 p.m. Because it was like,
no one knew
where else do you put this show?
Oh, yeah, it's one of those shows that's like no one knew what to do with it, so it's like, we're gonna put it here.
I'm trying to remember another show.
No one will watch it. So maybe we can get around it.
Of course, you have the classics, like, Powerpuff Girls, Ed, Edd and Eddy.
Yeah, I didn't watch Ed and Eddy. I did not like Ed and Eddy.
Going a little bit later, this is still like early 2000s.
Yeah.
TMNT. The 2003 TMNT. Unfortunately, I can't give you anything other than that, except for the fact of it was just called TMNT and it came out in 2003. 2003 had a lot of shows that came out that I actually enjoyed. Not all of them are great. Like, the He-Man one.
Yeah,
oh my God.
I loved that show because it's just so entertaining to watch. Not because it's good,
but because
it's entertaining.
It's so bad it's entertaining.
If we get the chance, I want us to react to that show because there's so much material for us to react to. It's interesting.
It's just so dorky.
It's not it's terrible, therefore it's hilarious. It makes odd choices that I find tickling.
So dorky and weird.
No, but the 2003 TMNT, it had TMNT, and then it had TMNT something about the future. I can never remember the name of the show.
Oh my god, I found it.
And then it was TMNT Back to the Sewers. And like it was so odd. Like, had Shredder wasn't a human, he was a freaking alien in a biomech armor suit thing. And like the art style was fantastic, the voice acting was great. Like a lot of like clips of cartoon TMNT shows that you'll see on the internet that isn't the 80s version
is usually this
2003, because it had such a great art style, it had a great voice acting, the action was very good, and the plot was ever changing.
Yeah.
It never really had like how a lot of shows have season arcs?
Yeah.
TMNT would have episodes like 2 or 3, maybe 5 episodes in a row that had a coherent plot line.
And then it would do some random thing.
It would do a lot like what the Justice League animated TV show had. It didn't have an overall season thing. It was just every few episodes would follow a plot, and then it would be different.
And then Raph would get pissed off with Leonardo and run off.
I'm pretty sure that's the show that actually solidified Raphael's role as the angry... Like, obviously, the people who read the comics, they're going to disagree with me wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
But, like, when it comes to, like, the public... mind.
The cartoon stuff.
Like, there was that live-action movies that came out. It showed, like, Raph was more of a hard-ass. But that show, in my opinion, is really what solidified Raphael as the aggressive, almost the outcast amongst his brothers.
The lone wolf pondering warrior.
And I love it.
One of the things Sorry, not to cut you off. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
Ryan.
You're good.
Aaron,
you are Ryan.
Yes, I am Ryan. You are Aaron.
Sorry, Ryan, for cutting you off. Me?
Yeah, sorry for cutting me off. But one of the things that TMT did really well was they didn't just pose Raphael as this dumb, angry brute. He was intelligent. He was a thinker. But he was...
Who just let his anger overtake him a lot of times.
He was a warrior poet.
Yeah.
He went on his own and thought about things. Because when he was with his family, he would get angry and upset, and then they would feed that back to him, and he wouldn't think.
It's one of those hilarious things. Like, for everyone who watched the show and watched the movie that basically closed out the series, Turtles Forever, where it was basically like, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse? Like that, but for the Turtles? It was basically, you had, like, the 80s cartoon Turtles, and then the 2003 Turtles, and then, like, the original comic book, black and white comic book Turtles that came together to fight the Shredder.
Oh, is that the movie?
Yeah, it was the movie.
Oh.
And I loved how Raph was like, oh, man, I love this place. Think about retiring here. Talk about this gritty, black and white, like, serious
Where they actually murder people?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, and he's looking at, like, the 80s version of himself, where basically Raphael was just Michelangelo in a different color, and it's like... The older Turtles are like, who are these weirdos? And Raph's like, wait, no, I want them to like me. He's like, wait, look at these guys with the stupid, like, leaded belt buckles, huh? That's dumb, right? Like, trying to, like, endear himself. Like, so he actually does care about certain things. It's just, like, it's so funny. It's what really helps with his relationship and friendship with Casey. Basically, he's like, and I thought I had anger issues.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to lie to you guys. I've seen the movie. I have not seen the cartoon.
You would like it. I guarantee you would like it.
I guarantee you would like it. I loved it as a kid.
It was a really good show.
Now, I found that show that I've been looking for like
is this another
4 or 5 years
Is this another
now?
Devil May Cry 4 series situation?
No, this is... I freaking, like, don't even get me started on that. It's called
God.
Hero 108.
Yeah, I remember that show.
Yeah.
I don't remember the show.
It was a show that
It was another one of those odd shows that came out at an odd time.
Yeah, and I just
It was basically a filler cartoon to pad out the runtime so you could push to the later time frame so more kids would be able to watch it.
But it was really fun.
It was fine.
I remember I was reading this thing about, like, this theory that, like, if you play... What's it called? What's Lowrider from the George Lopez theme song? If you play that song at 3 a.m., anybody that was, like, growing up during that time period when that show was on would, like, instantly wake up. Because, like, that happened to me so many times. You'd wake up in a cold sweat, just, like, the freaking Lowrider playing with George Lopez jumping on the screen.
It's like, a show that hopefully both of you have seen, and if you haven't, we're watching this nearly immediately as soon as we're able to. Xiaolin Showdown.
Oh, I love Xiaolin Showdown.
Show's so
Xiaolin Showdown.
Good. Another fantastic Tara Strong cartoon. She's such a great track record.
Exactly. Man, here's the thing. It's been so long since I've seen Xiaolin Showdown.
I loved the original. I hated the terrible attempt at a reboot that they made.
I don't know.
Where they took the Asian mythology and names... And so you had the Fist of Tebigong. No, now it's the Fist of the Iron Bear. Because it's America and American kids' audience are going to have to listen to you to see these freaking names. Like, no, what was wrong?
The Fist of Tebigong.
Fist of Tebigong.
Also?
You had Clay. You had a good old boy from Texas
America.
who was in a Xiaolin temple, who was one of the... That's what I loved about the show, was it had actual diversity. It wasn't a color palette. It was, you had Clay, the southern boy from Texas. Raimundo, the surfer dude from Brazil. Kimiko, the tech kawaii girl from Japan. And then you had Omi, the actual Shaolin Buddhist monk. And then you had Dojo, the ancient dragon, who is so old at this point he's modern. And then you had Master Fong. It was like, and then the villain. You had the ancient, what were the villains called? The ancient Halin witch, cursed to be a spirit, trapped in a puzzle box, and then Jack Spicer, evil boy genius. Oh my gosh, Jack Spicer was such a fantastic villain. He was so good.
He was so
He was just competent enough to be dangerous, but never so competent that...
He was actually going to win.
Actually, no, there is one alternate timeline.
Where he wins.
Wins. And the reason is because Omi, in a sheer act of brilliance, wanted to talk to his older version of himself. But without a time-traveling Shengang Wu, which is what the mystical artifacts in that game are called, in that show recalled. He instead decided to freeze himself with the Orb of Toonami, and then after however, like 80 years, use the Eye of Dashi to then thaw himself out, to get to the future. Failing to realize if he froze himself and waited for the future, there was no version of himself to grow old and therefore no one to talk to.
Yeah,
that's why he ended up that's why Jack Spicer won, is because they didn't have Omi wasn't there, therefore the team. And that's one of the important thing was it was the team. It was never a specific member that was all the power, it was the team. If Omi is removed, they fail apart. There's episodes where Raimundo is taken apart and they start to fail. Episodes where Clay or Kimiko are taken away and they fail. It's their teamwork, it's their trust they have in each other that allows them to succeed. Now, they're all competent warriors on their own, obviously.
Yeah, they're all badass.
Like, obviously, every Shaolin Showdown, it's one of them versus one of the villains.
But you have to remember.
But most of the time,
they had to work together.
Show is so good. It's one of those shows that I really, really loved, and I'm glad it didn't get canceled. I'm glad it actually was able to actually get an ending. Now, I don't know if they were like, okay, this is your last season to wrap everything up, or if this was the ending they were aiming for all along. But
I'm glad
the show got an ending, and that's more than a lot of shows like that Danny one Phantom can say.
And I'm sorry, I love every single time Clay had to say one of the names, because he'd get just perfectly right that you knew what he was saying, but it was said that Texas accent was a little bit wrong.
It's like, I love it. It's like, when it was like, Lasso Boa Boa.
It's great.
Dashi. He's like, Dashi. It's funny. It's like,
and I love the simpleness of his logic.
I love when the episode where you find out that Clay's father, the tassel, Kodig, what is that? The necktie? What I know what the artifact is called. What is the actual article of clothing called?
The bow tie?
It's not a bow tie. It's like one of those it's like lanyards, like adjustable things with the.
Fuck.
I thought you would know. You're into this stuff.
Yeah. No.
Anyway,
shit.
He has failed basically his
Kodak
and find another
basically, one. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's a pendant that's on a string that he can then tighten around his neck to be fashionable.
It's a bolo tie.
Bolo tie.
There we go.
It was like
we're no longer interested.
It's like, that's the Star Hanabi. No, it's the Star of Texas. My great-great-granddaddy dug it up in 18-something or other. It's like, yeah, well, that's because... that's because we buried it in 1520 or something. Like, just like the hundreds of years beforehand, like, arguing with him. It's like, the only way Clay is getting this is if he proves himself to be a man. Like, it's like, wow, this guy is literally going to take the end of the world until his son proves himself to me. Admirable, but also stupid.
Yeah.
But them good old boys, you ain't gonna hurry them up for nothing.
But
that boy from Texas, there ain't nothing more stubborn than a Texan.
It's like, I love the relationship with, like, Omi being a monk growing up in a monastery, doesn't know anything about the modern world. So what he knows is from things that he's heard or read about in the times that he's allowed to read. So Raimundo gets away with a lot of stuff. Like, when they were in Texas with Clay's family, he took Clay's hat, and he was like, do you know, it's like, all right, you know why they called gallon hats, right, Omi? No. It's like, because if you're able to fill that amount of that hat with a certain number of gallons, they get a free hat. So Omi's like, oh, okay. So, like, holds the hat while Raimundo's pouring milk into Clay's hat. And then Clay's like, comes out, like, hey, y'all, you see my... It's like, only 8.5 gallons. You get the free hat, Clay. He's like, Raimundo! Because they mess with each other. They're friends, but they all have very strong personalities that are very distinct from one another.
It's great. I love it.
So it was a fantastic show.
It's been a long... There's definitely a lot of these shows that I need to
rewatch just because
it's been so long.
That's basically the goal of anyone who grew up at the same time we did, to just tickle your nostalgia vibes, to make you go and pirate these shows on the internet. Eternal Council does not condone piracy. But of course, with these shows that don't exist anymore, it's kind of like, what option do they give you? But also, no one's making money off the show anymore either. Still don't condone piracy, but how else is anyone ever going to find these shows that were less popular, and therefore, maybe you'll find DVDs online. Maybe you'll find them on Amazon or eBay or Etsy.
Let's go into something that was a bit more popular.
Ben 10! That show was so good.
No, that's its own podcast. That's its own podcast.
There's so
we are
much
not
we can
going
talk
into
about
Ben 10 here.
All right, well, let's switch over to
Danny Phantom.
Let's switch over to Nickelodeon Danny Phantom for a little bit. Now, Ryan didn't watch Danny Phantom when it came out because, like he said, didn't watch cartoons. But
I didn't watch Nickelodeon at all.
But recently, or semi-recently, we did sit down and watch the series on Hulu, so he has seen it.
I have seen bits of it.
Me and Aaron binged that.
We watched Danny Phantom as like Avatar: The Last Airbender, Danny Phantom, My Life as a Teenage Robot. These are shows that I watched as they were coming out.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, more than just those, but like.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of those when they came out.
You know, not to detract from Danny Phantom, you know one of the weirdest shows, not even really shows, like specials that came out? The Jimmy Timmy Power Hour.
Oh my God! Do not even
get me started. They made 3 of those, and they were so odd.
No. Give me like 10 minutes to rant about that because I freaking love Jimmy. I owned all 3 movies. I loved Jimmy Timmy Power Hour.
I love Jimmy Neutron more than I liked Fairly Odd Parents. I like Fairly Odd Parents, but I like Jimmy Neutron more.
Yeah, me too. But like, oh my! Whenever they go into each other's in Jimmy Timmy Power Hour 3.
Here's a basis for Ryan who doesn't know what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking at these guys.
Fairly Odd Parents had a main character named Timmy. Jimmy Neutron had a main character named Jimmy, obviously. Jimmy is a boy genius. His brain is so large it actually distorts the size of his head.
Right.
It was a 3D animated show.
Okay.
Basically,
that was pretty much hell to animate.
Think claymation, but not quite the same methodology.
All right.
And the show basically went on the formula of Jimmy would have a problem, he'd create an invention to solve that problem. The invention wasn't quite right, which would cause an issue, either minor or major, that Jimmy would then have to solve by the end of the episode.
Right.
Basic premise.
Okay.
And Jimmy was unpopular because he was so intelligent that people basically just jerks him. So he had a friend named Sheen who was basically insane, but not quite.
And an idiot.
And then his friend Carl, who was like allergic to everything and also an idiot, but lots softer. Then you have Fairly Odd Parents, which had a main character.
Can you pass the croissant?
Croissant. Then they had
Yummy.
Fairly Neutron. Then you had Fairly Odd Parents with the main character named Timmy. The thing about Timmy is in this universe, if a child is having a terrible childhood for one reason or another, they are then assigned fairy godparents, who then grant them any wish as long as they don't break the rules. Timmy has a mother and father who are so idiotic they're at the point of literal abuse and neglect. Okay. Not only that, he's pretty dumb and has a teacher who is psychotic and has it out for him. He has a school bully who literally is like, I don't know what it was about cartoons back today, but the bullies were always like gray or blue colored for some reason.
Yeah.
Beat him up constantly. Then he had a babysitter who was literally pure evil. They bring this up constantly in the show. She is evil incarnate. And she loves nothing more than tormenting other people and getting paid for it because she's the babysitter. Literally in one of the movies. So Timmy's life is hell. So he's got Cosmo and Wanda, his fairy godparents.
Just wait 1 second. Just a little point just to be made here right fast. I recently saw a clip of I think it was a recent episode of Fairly Odd Parents. Mm. Apparently Timmy wished to never age in that show, and he wished no one would ever age. He wished that no one would ever age. And then he wished that Cosmo and Wanda would forget about that wish. And then basically whenever they go to fairy court about it, and Mr. Army Pants Man, what's his name?
Jorgen von Strangle, the most powerful fairy in the universe.
Yeah, Jorgen von Strangle. He asked, "How long ago did you make this wish?" Timmy answered, 53 years.
Nobody noticed.
53 years.
Nobody noticed.
Because the fairies are immortal.
Now, I don't know if that's like a true... I've only seen that clip.
That would be interesting.
But like, I honestly wanted to see how that... Because like...
So anyway, basic premise is Timmy has a problem, uses a wish to try and fix that problem. It goes horribly awry, and then he has to unwish the problem.
So pretty much the same as Jimmy, but with magic instead of science.
Now combine those two things together. That was the basic premise of the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour. Because the first one was about, there's a science fair going on. Timmy wanted to win, because otherwise Crocker would murder him. Not actually, but it's basically what it felt like. So he wished to be in the lab of the greatest mind on Earth. He ended up in his best friend AJ's lab. Can't take an invention from AJ, he'll know. So he said the lab of the greatest mind in another universe, and thus ended up in Jimmy's lab, and that's how it all gets started.
Okay.
And apparently, even though Jimmy has a distorted head and an unmistakable hairdo, his friends Sheen and Carl do not realize that Timmy is not Jimmy.
Because they're idiots.
But Cosmo and Wanda very easily realize that Jimmy is not Timmy. Because they're not idiots. Well, Cosmo is, but...
Cosmo's an idiot. Wanda's not.
Wanda's a good mom.
We have an idiot and a bigger idiot. And me! Wait, I counted me twice. It's a great line. So, they made 3 of these.
The third one is my favorite.
Because Jimmy and Timmy basically teamed up to take on their enemies. And it was Child's Play. So they decided to make their own.
Yeah, they decided to make their own villain.
And guess how well that goes.
Awesome.
They did too good of a job.
They did too good of it. Then they basically made this thing.
Okay, well they didn't intend to. It was an accident. Because Wanda pointed out, you guys are basically going to play with this thing until you're bored of it. So make him adoptable so somebody else can take him on. Timmy typed that in and wrote adaptable.
So it could adapt.
And that's why everything goes wrong. The funny thing is, though, the villain is like, he wasn't villainous. He was like, come on, guys, let's play. You want to beat me up some more? Until Jimmy and Timmy got upset with him. He was like, this isn't fun. He's not a villain. We're going to let him. It's like, heart heavy, tears welling up, adapting sadness into rage. Sorry, I might have peaked the microphone there. I apologize.
You did.
You did.
Rip headphones users. But like that, and it gets weird. So the first thing he does is he absorbs Cosmo and Wanda's magic, so they can no longer cast magic, but he can. Already broken.
Okay.
Dude, this dude, like honestly, put him against any fictional character, win.
One of the funny things is though, because Jimmy is a 3D animated show and in Fairly Odd Parents is a 2D animated one, as they would flip between the universes, obviously the art style would change, so they had to create character models
for
in both shows for each characters. It's very interesting.
Every world.
It's very interesting. Anyway, that's fun. It's neat. If you like Jimmy Neutron or Fairly Odd Parents and you did watch Jimmy Timmy Power Hour, I don't know how you missed that. But check it out. And if you get a chance to watch, I don't know if Jimmy Neutron is still on Hulu. Hulu picked up a lot of Nickelodeon cartoons recently. If you have Hulu, you owe it to yourself. Check out some... Not only do they have Nickelodeon cartoons, they also have some Cartoon Network cartoons as well, like Fairly Odd Parents, Ben 10, a lot of stuff. Good stuff. Look that up. Anyway, Danny Phantom.
Yeah, we kind of went on a
tiny tangent. I apologize. That was my fault.
And I was just here for the ride for most of this.
Danny Phantom was basically Butch Hartman. If for those of you who don't know, Butch Hartman has his own YouTube channel on YouTube, where he talks about a lot of stuff. And one of the things he talks about is how Danny Phantom got greenlit. And basically, he wanted to make a superhero cartoon because he loves superheroes. And he liked the idea of Danny. He liked the name Danny for a character. He's like, okay, what could stop with that? So he comes up with the concept of Danny Phantom when he was moving. Either he was moving on a road trip or something. He was in a car for a long period of time, and he came up with the name Phantom. Danny Phantom. And eventually he pitched the idea to Nickelodeon, and they loved it. Don't ask me why the show got canceled. I don't know. I haven't read up on it.
It got canceled because of time slot issues, because the show was becoming increasingly less popular because of this time slot that it shared with the 2 biggest fucking shows at the time, which were Fairly Odd Parents and SpongeBob.
Yeah, because those of you who don't know, Nickelodeon has like 3 or 4 different channels. They have Nickelodeon,
Nicktoons, and Nick Jr.
Nick Jr., but then they also have Nickelodeon West.
And Nick at Night.
So they basically have at least my cable package allowed me to see you had Nickelodeon, and then Nickelodeon, but 3 hours later. So the shows that you missed, you got a chance to watch again.
Yeah.
Which was interesting, and I like that concept, but also that means Nickelodeon has so many channels.
I love Nickelodeon.
Nicktoons was what I tended to watch more, because Nicktoons had stuff like Danny Phantom, Avatar: The Last Airbender, a lot of other stuff that was...
Nicktoons was probably the one that I watched the most.
But it also had stuff like Fanboy and Chum Chum on it, and I was like, why?
I did not like Fanboy and Chum Chum.
Did not like Fanboy and Chum Chum at all.
We don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that. It was a bad show.
Wow. We're not watching.
So apparently Big Time Rush is on Hulu now.
Yes! It's been on Hulu for a while. I loved Big Time Rush. I loved the show. I liked their music.
There was just like, it just came out at like such a weird time.
The problem is, as it got later on in the series, it stopped doing about like wacky hijinks and started more focusing on teenage drama.
And
it was like,
worse.
nah, the show's
And then you
bad.
have Drake and Josh.
Nah, the show's bad. Drake and Josh was one of those really long running shows.
It was only 4 seasons.
It's one of those really long running shows.
And it's great all the way through.
And then that spin-off, like, not really a spin-off, but might as well be a spin-off of iCarly.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of the same cast members.
Yeah.
To the fact that Drake Bell himself sings the theme song with Miranda Cosgrove.
Really? I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, they both sing it.
Yeah, it was money.
Yeah,
iCarly was great too.
I've seen some of iCarly.
It was fun.
It was fun at first.
Spencer's best character.
Oh, he can come in here without a shirt on, but I can't wear a turtleneck sweater. Read the rule book.
Read the rules. It's like, what do you got there? A smoothie. What about you? One of my favorite memes. And that, for context, because I'm pretty sure Ryan doesn't know what I'm talking about. They have an elevator that goes between the 2 floors of their apartment.
Right.
Spencer is an artist.
Yeah.
So he does odd things. So in their elevator, Sam and Carly are talking, and then the elevator opens up, and then Spencer comes out, and he's got a smoothie in one hand, and then there's an ostrich next to him. She goes, "What you got there?" "A smoothie. What about you?" It's like, it's not really...
I think one of my favorite things, I was watching this thing about like them recording, like they were recording a practice scene for one of these things because they couldn't get the scare that they were looking for.
I feel like iCarly was ever so slightly ahead of its time, talking about teenagers creating content for the internet. Just ever so like 2 years too early.
Yeah.
Then you have shows like Bizarre Varks,
Gross.
which is basically the same concept, but like not nearly as well done in my opinion.
And then, which I think I was watching this scene that they were recording, like that wasn't supposed to be the actual recording, but like they couldn't get them to give the fear reaction that they wanted, so they just replaced the prop. But basically, they had the fire extinguisher. They had a fire extinguisher that was supposed to like shoot fire instead of shoot fire extinguisher.
It was a flamethrower.
It was a flamethrower, and they had like the fake prop one that they had just for like doing the practice scenes. And
well, because there was no
one of the guys,
because there was no real fire, they never got an adequate
exactly.
reaction.
So like one of the guys replaced it without telling them, and then they just then when Spencer just pulls on it and actual flames come out, they both scream, and it was like an actual genuine scream of terror.
Yeah,
and it's so great, like just.
God, the awful things directors will do to their freaking actors.
It's fantastic.
It's great. It made the show so good.
Horrible,
I don't know if it was Die Hard or another movie like along those lines where like the villain is supposed to fall at the end.
It was Die Hard.
It was Die Hard. So they were supposed to fall in the end. So they had to react to the falling. But what happened was there was like a slight hitch in the harness, so he fell early. So
it wasn't a slight hitch. The director purposely said, he was like, "Okay, you're going in 3, 2," and then dropped.
So that reaction of him, like him screaming of him falling, was an actual genuine reaction.
Exactly, like the look of terror on his face as he falls down.
In E.T., the little girl who played the little sister, that first scene that she sees E.T. was the first time she had ever seen
the doll.
The doll. So it genuinely freaked her the fuck out. When
it kind of reminds me of like.
She was genuinely traumatized by that.
What was the name of that movie?
Why are you asking us? We don't know.
Yeah, I can't read
The Shining.
coding.
How the little kid in The Shining did not know that he was recording a horror movie, obviously. So like to him it was just like a little family comedy, or like he would play with the little girls off set and like, you know, Jack Nicholson. And then it wasn't until like he was like 16 that he watched the movie for the first time and realized what he was playing in. He was like, "Damn, son."
Yeah. That's
Because they didn't want to scare them. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Respect.
That's the problem you have to deal with when you're dealing with children is you can't.
I always wondered how they did all those like recordings with like kids in horror movies.
It's interesting. It's a very fine line to feather because you can't scare a kid too bad, otherwise they won't come back to set. But you can't not scare them because you need a reaction.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Well, here's the thing: when it came to Danny, I think it was Danny. I think that was his name in the movie.
What kind of drugs, Denny?
Oh, I'm thinking of Danny Phantom. Well, when it came to the kid in The Shining,
yeah, this is a movie I've never seen, by the way.
Huh?
I've never seen this movie, by the way.
Oh, it doesn't matter. We're supposed to be talking about cartoons anyways.
Yeah. So I have nothing to
Well, it's
compare
very
it to.
shows.
Like anything that we watched growing up that we enjoyed enough to talk about at this
Yeah,
point.
because I didn't watch a whole lot of cartoons. I watched maybe Cyber Chase,
Dragon Tales,
Dragon Tales,
Bob the Builder.
Roly poly oly.
Oh,
Actually, I liked Bob the Builder. I did.
I loved Bob the Builder.
I could never.
Well,
I
thank you.
was never around to
Cyber
watch it though. I
Chase.
never really got like the theme song, and then like I never was able to finish the show for one reason or
Dragon
another.
Tales,
Yeah.
Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Oh my god.
And
When you
Clifford the
realize if
Little
Clifford
Red
the big red dog was real, he'd be used for war.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So sad.
The puppy version of him.
Clifford's Puppy Days.
And apparently, I'm the only one in
Yeah.
this daggum household that's ever watched SpongeBob as a child.
I
My
hated that
parents
show.
hated that show. They found it asininely annoying. They would not let me watch it because they couldn't
found it
stand it.
asininely annoying. I didn't know what asininely annoying meant back then when I was a kid, but I despised SpongeBob.
Yeah, no.
I love SpongeBob.
But that was it for cartoons.
Just whatever you could see on PBS. And maybe WB.
So I watched, as a kid, I watched a whole lot of Star Trek Voyager, Deep Space Nine, The Next Generation.
Because Ryan's parents were nerds.
Because
No,
I
let's
came
go
from
back to
family
the
nerds.
real roots right here. Let's go back to Sweet Life on Deck. Sweet Life on Deck. Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Sweet Life.
Sweet Life of Zack and Cody was so much better than Sweet Life on Deck.
NCIS, watch NCIS.
Yes.
We're not-
These childhood shows
Yeah.
Ryan watched, which he probably should not have been watching necessarily as a child.
Should not have been watching these as a child, but they
No
were
wonder
what
you are so fucked up, Ryan.
But they're what I grew up on. So yeah, Jamie was my hero growing up. I idolized her. She was amazing.
No,
No,
Sweet
but
Life of Zack and Cody.
it was an interesting show.
I loved what there was like a few shows
Live
that
action
I
shows.
liked as a kid,
The-
and like it was like mostly like Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Drake and Josh, iCarly. I was Sweet Life on Deck, obviously. Like I liked watching them
continuations
because like
of
they
those
were
shows.
still like because I was still young whenever those shows came out, like Big Time Rush, all that jazz. I was still like pretty young when all those shows came out. I wasn't a kid.
Yeah, one of the most one of the more divisive shows. One that has like this really weird reception, I guess, that I enjoyed, but I also understand why other people didn't. Johnny Test.
Man, I can't even
Johnny
fathom.
Test is a weird show.
It is, and I love it. Like I can't fathom the people that say that they don't like Johnny Test.
I can
problem
perfectly
is-
understand Johnny Test why people didn't like it.
No, I flat out don't understand. It's so fun, wacky.
Coding. Here's why. Because I had a problem with the show. Johnny Test as a character did not make sense. Sometimes he would be brilliantly, weirdly clever, and other times he was dumber than a box of rocks. Sometimes
That was his character.
Sometimes he could figure out that 1 + 1 = 2, and other times he thought it meant 5.
It's the same way with a lot of other
No,
characters.
I
in
actually
cartoons.
disagree with that assessment.
Johnny
Johnny was always consistent in his idiocy. The issue was Johnny had an intellect to him, a slight one. The issue was his thirst for adventure and action and mayhem overrode that every single time. So that's why the intelligence came from
his
sisters.
Which is what I like about watching the crazy antics.
Basically, it's Dexter's laboratory, but switch the gender of the siblings, and Johnny doesn't destroy his sister's inventions, he tests them for them, and in exchange, they make stuff for him.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest things. Like, love the crazy antics of that show, especially with like.
I love the crazy antics,
and like everyone like the important people, like Johnny, like Gil. Like Gil doesn't
Johnny.
have any idea that Johnny even has sisters.
Hi, Gil. Hey, Johnny.
Like, I think that show was really, really fun all the way up until like Dookie's voice changed.
That was one of the big weird things. Is Dookie's voice actor changed? I don't know why. I'm not going to claim to know why, but it wasn't close enough, and it really lacked the energy of the original voice actor.
Yeah, it just because like I remember one time I was watching it, and I was watching it on Netflix. I was on like the 4th or 5th season.
It was on Netflix?
Yeah, it was on Netflix.
I don't remember it ever being on Netflix.
It was on Netflix like a year and a half ago.
Interesting.
Or 2 years ago. Yeah, I was watching it on Netflix, and it's on Hulu now.
Is it?
I think so.
I didn't see it on Hulu. That's interesting.
It's on one of the two right now.
It's on a streaming service.
It was on both.
It's on HBO Max with a subscription.
No, but I was watching it, and I was hearing Dookie speak. I was like,
that's not
Dookie.
Which is a terrible name for a character, and I did not understand
why.
No. I didn't understand. I didn't get the joke. I didn't get what that word meant when I watched the show. It was not till years later.
What does that mean?
Really, it means poop.
It's another term.
That poor dog.
It's Johnny. It's Johnny Test.
And Dookie is like what? Like he's a few years.
Yeah,
old,
it's on Netflix.
Interesting. He's a few years old minimum. So Johnny, who's like in middle school, named that dog when he was like young. So
he was like a baby. So yeah.
It's funny
now the dog can talk.
Funny how the energy of Johnny Test is very much present in the show Kick Buttowski.
Oh my god, that was another one of the ones that I used to just like watch a lot as a kid. Like Disney XD specifically was what
Disney
I loved
XD.
watching. I did not like
Dragon Riders was a show I really enjoyed.
It was it was mostly Disney XD.
What was Dragon Riders?
It was one of those like semi 3D animated shows. Basically, it was about there's this futuristic society where they have dragon races, and apparently there's like this one. I'm struggling to remember the premise because like it was one of those shows I didn't really get to watch a ton of because either it vanished or I just was never around to watch it when it did. Basically, it was one of those. Basically, it was the He-Man thing where like you had the main character and the animal companion where they would transform slightly and stop bad guys.
Okay.
Another show that I liked that came on that was in Disney XD was Yin Yang Yo. I loved that show. I thought that show was fantastic. The look Kodak is giving me means he probably has never seen it. I know for a fact Brian hasn't, so I'm not going to talk too deep into it.
Anything Disney XD, I have.
How about
never
Puffy
seen.
Umi Yumi? I think that's what
Hi
it is.
Hi Puffy Ami Yumi, let's go.
Yeah, fuck.
Another one of those shows that came on pretty late at night.
Like Teen Titans.
Yeah.
We're not going into that here.
Teen Titans is another show is another topic we could talk about for an entire podcast.
Teen Titans and Young Justice are going to be their own thing.
Yeah, we're probably going to blend them together because they feed into one another so much.
Oh yeah.
Not Go.
We're
not talking about Teen Titans Go. We have nothing but negative things to say about that show. I understand it's meant for an entirely different audience, which is why I'm fine with it existing. I don't like it.
Exactly.
I'm not fine with it existing because it ruins one of my favorite characters. But
no, I'm okay. I'm glad it exists for a joke in Young Justice Season 3.
I will agree with that. It
is a fantastic joke in Season 3 of Young Justice.
Season 3 of Young Justice.
Fantastic joke.
That's it.
DOOMPATROL. Doom. Control. Let's go.
Now we have to die.
That was so fucking terrible.
And that's funny. I didn't realize that the voice actor for Beast Boy was voice acting Beast Boy in Season 3 of Young Justice. I didn't catch it.
He voice acted Beast Boy the entire...
Nope.
Yeah.
Not in Season 2.
Oh, no.
In Season 2, Season 2, he didn't voice Beast Boy.
And then they got all the voice cast to do the Doom Patrol.
Yes.
I was like, yes.
It's Warner Brothers. They own it.
Oh god. But yeah,
I'm gonna look up
It's just really fun.
Every Cartoon Network show.
But anyway, Yin Yang Yo was a basic summary. Basically, it was a world of animal people, and Yin and Yang were brothers and sister who were studying. It was a martial art. I can't remember exactly what it's called, But Yang basically focused on the physical aspects of it, the more martial arts heavy.
Oh, I watched Yin Yang.
And Yin focused on the more like mystical aspect of it. And then they had their master, Yo, who was a panda who was hecking old. And he's basically the last surviving master of the martial art, which I can't remember. I'm really sad about that. And basically, it's a show about them trying to master things while also having a lot of really, really weird shenanigans going on. That's basically the main concept of a lot of shows we watched growing up. Shenanigans.
Yeah, shenanigans is great. Shenanigans, for those of you entertainment people who are watching the show, which I...
Yes, watching.
Yes, totally watching/listening to this podcast. Because there's definitely going to be, professional video people listening to this thing. Shenanigans is what kids want.
Well, to be fair, Teen Titans Go has shenanigans in it.
Teen Titans Go
different types
ruins my favorite character.
See, here's the thing. We want shenanigans. We want shows with shenanigans. Don't take existing characters.
Well, that's what they got to do, though. Anyway, there's another show.
No, they did not.
Whoa. I'm going to throw something out here real fast. Okay. I'm going to throw something out here real fast because I know that at least one of you, I can't remember which one, maybe both, does not have a high opinion of the show, and I want to see what it is. Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy.
I hated that show.
I loved that show. I love that show. I hated Billy.
It had such horrific imagery. It encouraged the Cowardly Dog. I could not watch because of the graphic, hideous imagery blatantly throughout those shows. I'm not saying this show shouldn't exist. Every once in a while, you need to show kids something a little dark, a little scary to help them, prepare themselves for the real world. Not that they're ever going to fight a 3-headed demon bleeding from the anus, but I did not want to watch that show. I would never want to show that show to anyone of any age. Also, Billy was fucking disgusting.
Yeah, I hated Billy.
He was so empty-headed and filthy.
I liked Grim. I
love
the Grim was great.
I liked him.
I love the Reaper.
The Grim Reaper was fantastic.
The chillest old dude ever. He's just like, I'm too old for this shit.
And Mandy, I thought was interesting. Everything else about the show, I despised.
Here's my thing. Awful. I used to love watching Billy and Mandy as a kid. I could not watch Courage the Cowardly Dog. I could not do it. I had tried to bring myself to it. Every single time I did, I had nightmares that night.
Nothing to it but to do it.
I couldn't fucking do it.
Now, another show that was around the same time was Codename Kids Next Door.
Oh my god.
I loved that show. Remember like a few years ago, they tried to get it back, but it didn't get enough fan support to trigger?
I didn't even know about that.
Yes, they tried to get it to come back.
Well, they failed miserably.
Yeah. It sucked.
If they did it again and I know about it now...
No, the issue that they had was, unlike Young Justice, which they put it on Netflix, and basically Netflix announced, hey, if it gets enough views, we'll make a third season. Codename Kids Next Door didn't get that. Basically, the original casting creators basically got together and posted on the internet, like, hey, sneak peeks. If we get enough momentum, we'll post the show. We'll make the show. The problem that they had was their sneak peek that they were going to release at a certain day got leaked, so it undercut the attempt, the movement, which sucks.
Okay, let's see what else you guys know about.
Okay, this is a show that probably neither of you have heard of, but I really liked them. They came out around the same time, and I thought they were really good shows, just they're never popular enough to really get going.
Okay.
Was Stormhawks and Hot Wheels Battle Force 5.
I know Hot Wheels Battle Force 5.
But you don't know Stormhawks.
I don't know Stormhawks.
I don't know either of these.
I loved them. I loved them so much.
I think you showed me them.
I loved them so much that Babby Aaron wrote a crossover fan fiction for these shows. That's how much I loved these shows, and I'm so sad that they didn't really get to go anywhere.
Because like Hot Wheels Battle Force 5, I absolutely loved watching because like it was so cool. Was so cool.
Had these fire theme songs.
Exactly.
So good.
That we can't sing here.
No, we can't. That's the thing that's the thing that upsets me most of the time nowadays is that kids' cartoons, their opening themes ain't nothing compared to what ours were.
Most of them are literally nothing. Like, actually literally nothing. Like, non-existent.
Yeah. Sucks.
Like, have you seen regular shows opening? Nothing. I mean, don't get me wrong.
We Bare Bears.
Yeah. I actually love regular show, but we're not going to go into that.
I love DuckTales growing up, and I'm glad that it actually has a successful reboot. I don't know if it's still going on. I hope it is, because that show was really good. I just haven't. We don't have cable anymore. I have not had cable in a very long time. We just do streaming services. Yeah. So I have not been able to watch it. Legitimately.
How about Camp Laszlo?
I watched that show. I liked that show a lot.
You don't even know what Camp Laszlo is?
No.
Okay, it was a really weird show. I loved it.
Okay, basically it was a camp. It was a summer camp called Camp Kidney, and every single cabin was named after a different bean. It was another show about talking animals. You had Laszlo, a monkey, Raj the elephant, and Clam the rhinoceros in the jelly cabin. Jelly beans. And Laszlo was a bit kooky, but well-meaning. Clam had something wrong with him, but he was like, basically Ed, and Eddie, you had Ed?
Yeah.
Clam was basically the Ed of the group.
Okay.
But would only repeat, the last thing, a sentence, basically, Laszlo's like, let's go get breakfast! Breakfast! That's the only way he would ever talk.
Okay.
And then Raj was, of course, he was an Indian elephant, so he was the foreigner of the group, and he was interesting. The show was fun. The funny thing that was really interesting was the headmaster, Master Lumpus, who was a moose, who was in love with the headmaster, not the headmaster, the whatever that position is called, of the all-girl camp across the lake, Miss Doe.
Oh, yeah.
And he was, in love. And it's like, Lumpus did not want to be in this job. He was like, I don't like the crappy camp. I don't like the kids. He hated Laszlo.
Absolutely.
Because
despised.
Laszlo it's like, why are you so happy and energetic? Think Squidward, but, much older.
Okay.
And, I liked him, though. I loved Lumpus.
You realize that I have the barest understanding of who
Okay.
I'm more talking about to the audience. Audience.
Let's go. Let me go into something real fast. Okay. Let's go into a show that should not have existed for children at all.
Jumping around a lot in this podcast.
Sorry,
I know, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shows to cover, and then you just can. And then
we could do 15 of these.
All
exactly.
Right.
No, let's go into a show that should not have ever existed for children. Possibly destroyed my childhood, because I actually watched this show all the time.
Oh my.
I watched this show every single time it came on.
Okay.
And I liked it, quote unquote.
Okay.
Liked it. But it probably scarred me for life.
Okay.
All right.
The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack.
Yes.
Oh my
that
God!
Was one of those shows,
the imagery,
like Billy and Mandy, but with the weird, wacky imagery that was really haunting.
The imagery in this show for the candy lady.
That came out. That came out around the same time Chowder did.
Yeah.
And Chowder had a similar vibe, but it was way less grotesque.
No, it was flat horror.
That show was horror.
It was horror.
Okay.
It was one of those weird shows. I didn't watch it.
I watched it all the time.
The only time I ever watched it was if the show that was coming on next I really wanted to watch and I didn't want to miss it, so I just had it on in the background, even though I never really paid attention to it.
Why do people keep trying to post shows like this?
Dude, are you kidding me? Ren and Stimpy
was
one of the major, Invader Zim, one of the most popular shows on Nickelodeon that had a huge cult following, had a lot of the why are children watching this show? See, you moving a little forward ahead in time to what was kind of the almost the edgelord phase of Cartoon Network. Two shows that I really, really enjoyed. Well, I don't want to say really, really enjoyed, but I liked enough, and I want to bring up.
Watch.
Yes, Generator Rex.
I was about to mention Generator Rex,
which was coming on around the same time that Benson Alien Force and Ultimate Alien were on.
Yeah,
and the Saturdays.
The Secret Saturdays.
That was the name of that show. Odd shows that were a lot more action heavy than other shows were at the time, and were trying to be, I don't want to say more serious, because I don't think they were. Generator Rex might have been, but Secret Saturdays were... Basically, the Secret Saturdays were a people that studied cryptids.
Okay.
And oftentimes trying to prevent people from hunting them or killing them for lack of understanding. Their villain was a guy trying to capture cryptids to create an army of them to then take over the world.
This seems like a problem.
What made it interesting was the main character, the kid named Zach. He had the ability to basically, one, communicate, but also two, basically mind control cryptids. But he didn't like suppress their will. He was like, okay, buddy, we're gonna calm you down, and we're gonna move you over here. That's mostly what he ever did it with. Guess what the villain wanted to do?
Use him to control his army?
Yes.
Alright, made sense.
That was another example of the really hot moms in kids' cartoons.
Yeah. And in Generator Rex, you had a guy with the ability to turn
basically the world was exposed by nanomachines. Now, in most people they were dormant, and other people they were harmless, and in some it turned them into horrific monsters. Rex was one of these people. He has the ability to basically generate machinery, like giant swords or mech arms or a bicycle, stuff like that. But what makes him interesting is he has the ability to absorb these nanites from them into himself. Basically allows him to cure people that are time to transform. That's the basic premise of the show. And then you have a bad guy who is basically has his own island. He basically is completely sovereign, and either he was the reason that the world got exposed to it, or he just capitalized on it. There was a crossover show between Ben 10 and Generator Rex.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What
was it called?
I don't remember. I don't know if it had a fancy name or not. I watched it when it came out. It was interesting.
What was that? Oh man.
Juniper Lee. I can't remember the name of the show. It was kind of like, basically, there were monsters in the world, but only certain people could see them. So it was the Tush 1Z, or the Tush 1Z. It was their responsibility, kind of like American Dragon, but like, it was a human that could see monsters that nobody else could see. And it was responsibility to basically protect monsters, but also keep them away from humans.
What was that one show on Disney? I think it was Disney XD, the one with the kids that got like the phones and like they recalled replacement mother and like their mother was like a spy.
That was on Disney Channel, and that was The Replacements.
The Replacements, yeah.
And they were orphans, and they used the replacements to give themselves a daredevil dad and a super spy mom.
Which was fantastic.
Basically, every episode they replaced some jackwad in their life
with somebody else.
But then the person they replaced it with was worse because of interesting dynamics and like unexpected results, and so they basically got unreplaced.
The only people that actually stayed replaced was their parents.
Because the parents adopted them, basically.
Exactly.
Awful.
No, they didn't have parents. They were orphans.
They were orphans, yeah.
Yeah, but people that they got.
It's just they wanted parents. Basically, the long and short of it was.
No, they didn't replace. They never replaced their parent. The parents that they
because they were orphans. They basically just used the replacements to give themselves parents,
and then they adopted them.
Yeah,
it's funny because like they just like you're my mom, you're my dad. Who the fuck is this guy?
You want to know a weird show that came out? That's come out way more. That came out way more recently than any of the cartoons that we talked about. Max Steel.
You never saw or heard of
exactly.
I've heard of it.
You know Fire Breathers?
No.
That one movie that Cartoon Network
made? Oh my god.
It was later than that. Basically.
Oh my god, I know exactly the one with the guy that has like different forms for his like for his outfit.
Because he generates energy.
And he has like the little robot buddy that follows. Yeah, I know exactly.
And basically, here's the
thing, speed form, strength form. Yeah.
Yeah. It was basically it's another superhero kid cartoon, but like
Benton kind
trying
of
to lead
Water Elementor.
Those are some of the villains. It was interesting. Show was interesting. It was weird. I watched it when it first came out, and then I fell off of it because, like I said, it was weird. There's so many. Like I said, there's so many shows that we could talk about.
Or is that the name of the episode? Yeah, that's the name of the
All right,
episode.
rounding out the end of this podcast, Ryan, because you've been kind of steamrolled this entire time. Let's talk about shows that you watched.
To be fair, we've both been kind of steamrolled by your explanations of shows.
Yeah.
Well, because the audience, if they don't know about the show, they need at least the briefest understanding of what it is.
Well, you can let somebody else explain it. Aaron. Jeez.
So
I don't trust your ability to vernacular.
I really watched a lot of cartoons when I was a kid and growing up.
No, watch. You already explained
Most
that.
of the
Just
cartoons
watch shows.
I watched later on in my years, but I did watch a lot of Clifford, a lot of PBS. Cyber Chase was something that I watched a lot of. But so instead,
nerd.
So instead, I had a whole lot of Star Trek because I grew up in a family of nerds. Janeway was my hero. I watched Deep Space Nine, but Janeway was my hero.
Did you ever watch Word Girl
No.
on PBS Kids?
No.
Watch Go Diego Go. That was a fun show. But we're talking about what Ryan watched.
Yeah, so I
I'm
grew up watching a lot of the, and so yes, I grew up watching a lot of shows that probably
Shouldn't
kids
have been
shouldn't have been watching.
Oh,
that's
murder
what we
investigations for children.
Because
To be fair, most kids shouldn't have been watching.
Yeah, because instead of having, cable, I had a handful of very select channels that we had purchased that we could watch, and everything else that I watched were things that we had a collection of. Like we had the first 3 or 4 seasons of NCIS, so I watched the first 3 or 4 seasons of NCIS and loved it. We
On DVD or on VHS?
on DVD.
Probably DVD. I remember my dad had the first season and the 15th season, and I watched both of those like several times. Yeah,
I've been very confused.
Yeah. I grew up watching Voyager because it was one of the very few shows that I found genuinely interesting that I could watch on a channel that I actually regularly had at a time when I wasn't either at school or going to sleep.
My parents liked Star Trek. Like, my dad watched Star Trek, excuse me, a lot. I never got into it. Honestly, I never really enjoyed Star Trek, any of them. And I've watched bits and pieces of, like, every show, and I've just
same here.
never been interested.
Yeah.
I was always more into
I
Star
get it.
Wars.
But yeah, and I liked Star Wars too. I liked the movies. And I know that's grand heresy to like both Star Wars and Star Trek.
No, it's not. Anyone who's got that opinion is
You guys
dumb.
can go screw yourselves. I loved both of them. They were
Chocolate
great.
and peanut butter are great, and they're fantastic
fantastic.
together.
And they're even greater and more fantastic together. It's
Unless
Well, I don't like
unless you have a
peanut butter.
chocolate or peanut allergy, obviously. But
well, then
Well, I don't like peanut butter.
you poor thing.
I don't like plain peanut butter.
But
Some
yeah.
people will eat.
I will take
peanut butter.
spoonfuls of peanut butter.
Yeah, no, I won't.
I
be
like
that.
peanut butter.
Then again,
It's good.
So yeah, those
I
are
like
the
the
shows
butter.
that I watched
Oh,
as a
butter.
kid. These were shows that a lot
He
of
likes
people
the
would
pea
say
butter.
that kids should not have watched. But then again, I was also the kid who grew
I like
up
the
on
butter
Lord
of
of the
nut.
Rings.
So this is
So-
the pea variety.
I was a very strange kid.
Yeah.
Which might explain why
A lot of
He's a
things
very
about you.
strange individual. I don't even
Yeah,
think it
I'm
matters
not
about being a kid or
normal.
not.
He started strange.
He started off strange.
Doctor Strange.
Oh, we're using our made-up names now.
Oh, I'm Spider-Man.
I'm Spider-Man.
It's Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Well, anyways, guys, I think
Just
this is gonna.
a couple of things I want to talk about just before the end.
Okay.
I know.
coulda
Obviously,
said
there
that-
are a lot of Marvel and DC shows
That we can cover separately.
that we watched. We are going to cover those in Marvel and DC episodes.
Usually
Obviously, we
about
said
those
obviously the
two
Teen Titans
things.
and Young Justice is probably going to be their own topic eventually. But when it comes to like Marvel and DC, we're doing extra stuff, and that's probably going to be a huge hodgepodge of movies, TV shows, comics, and all that jazz. Whether that's going to be next time or some other time later in the future,
Probably gonna be next time.
who can say?
To be fair.
You
But
guys have
anyways-
still not finished the third season of Young Justice Outsiders.
I know.
So
I know.
you need to finish that first before we watch.
We'll finish.
talk about
We will finish Young Justice before the end of that.
Obviously.
Uh-huh.
But anyways, guys, that's going to be the end for us today. Oh crap, where was I going with that? There was a whole
done,
thing.
professional.
Ryan.
There was a whole. I had it all planned out. Okay, give me 1 second. Let's restart. Leaving it in there anyways. Restart. Anyways, guys, that's gonna be it for today. I'm Kodig.
I've been Aaron.
And I'm Ryan.
And will you see you guys next time? Bye.
Well done. Good acting.
Fantastically good. I especially love where you lost
About an hour and something.
Crack it.